So I'll just introduce myself. My name is Steve Roberts. I work for Holborn Assets. I have done for 14 years now. My job role is USA Citizenship. Been doing that for a number of years now. Alongside me is our head of immigration, which is Mr. Tyrone, Siren. He's here along just to help me along with this presentation and also to answer all of our questions when we get to that point. On that note, at the bottom of our screens here, you can see the Q&A button. So as I do the presentation, if you've got any questions whatsoever, feel free just to put your questions in the box and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Even if you ask me to repeat something or if there's something you didn't understand or didn't hear properly, please just put it in the box and we'll get to that at the end. So let's talk about Holborn Assets. Holborn Assets are a worldwide financial services company. We have 25 offices in 18 countries and over $2 billion worth of assets under management. So a pretty big deal, and we're very confident and very assured in this space. Today we're going to be talking about EB3, which is the United States' easiest and fastest route into the United States, and it's also the cheapest residency program in the world. So you're not going to get any cheaper than this. So I think definitely worth a listen. And we're also going to talk to you about the process, how it works, the costings, and try and explain everything as much as we can. And then we're going to go to your questions. Okay, so Holborn Assets have worked really hard on making this program simple, or as simple as we can. It's actually not very simple, but we've simplified it, obviously, over the years of doing it. And Tyrone and his team have really put together a fantastic, process to do this. So we've actually condensed it into six sort of steps. So what I'm going to do is tell you the 6 steps and then go over each step individually to show you what we do and how we make it. So the 6 steps to EB3 and to qualify for EB3 is: number 1, we need to find a main applicant in your family who's happy to take a job role in the USA. It's EB3, which stands for employment-based visa. So, it does require one person from the household to take a job role, and it needs to be either the mother or the father. Second step would be to get a qualifying job from an American employer. We'll go into after this. We will then need to get a labour certificate from the United States. After that, we will then need to apply for a green card approval. After that, and once we obtain that, we then need to get approval from your local USA consulate. So that's the next thing we need to do. And the last part is the actual to America to receive, which is actually permanent residency. So let's break that down. So, just in short, you need a main applicant, you need a job role, you need a labour certificate, you need a green card approval, and you need approval from your local USA consulate, and then you need to go and collect your green cards. That's the steps. So let's talk about how we do that. So number 1 is to find a main applicant in your family. At the end of this meeting, I will share a QR code on screen where you can get your phone, scan it, and book a meeting with me directly. At that meeting, we will discuss your family situation, where you are, what you're trying to do, your motivation, and we will discuss who's best in your family to take this job role. So we will work together on finding out who's the most suitable in your family to become the main applicant. Once we've got the main applicant, we have a stringent sort of document check and background check on that main applicant, and then we'll be in a position to offer you a job. It's important to sort of talk about that part now, not the job itself, which we'll come to after this part, but we're going to talk about the American employer now. So we, Holborn, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest financial services companies in the world, we have a partnership with an American employer. They're a distribution company. They're a little bit like Amazon, but not Amazon. They sort of do distribution around America, and they have sites around America in places, things like Pennsylvania, Columbus, Ohio, Indiana, Arizona, Texas. They got plenty of options. And they have, in partnership with us, are happy to offer jobs to our clients, provided we've vetted them and we're happy for them to move forward with the program. So that's where we get the job offers from. And they're a very experienced employer who've been in this field for a long time. So we're very confident with them. Tyrone's worked with them for over 10 years. So we're very confident in that side of things. So once we get the job offer, we then pass that to our legal and admin team to apply for the labour certificate for you. This takes around 9 to 10 months. Takes a while. It's the longest part of the process. We don't have any control over the Labour Department in the United States, but you've got to stay calm and understand that that's about normal to get a labour certificate. But once we achieve that, we then move on to the next step, which is getting green card approvals for the main applicant and their families. So, it's either the mother or father, their spouse, and their children under 21. We can then apply for green card approval from the immigration department for all of your family. Once we achieve the approval, we then move on to securing a local US embassy appointment for you, which is where we go along and present the program and the plan and your documents. It's where we present, the job offer, the labour certificate, the green card approval, the birth certificates, marriage certificates, and all the other documents that we will require, and sort of tell them your plan. Mr. and Mrs. X wants to go to America. We've got a job. We've got a labour certificate. We've got a green card approval. This is why we're doing it. This is where we're going. And they may or may not ask you a few questions around the job position and why you're going and who you're going to work for. That's normal. I think the process takes 10 minutes or so, but you will be fully prepared for that because, our team we'll be with you all the way, and we will sort of hold your hand and make sure you are aware what documents to take, what questions may or may not be answered or asked, and prepare you for the answers. So you'll be fully supported in that visit. Once we get the approval from the US consulate, the US consulate will then issue visas to travel for all of the family to go and collect your green card. The visa will be valid for 180 days, where you and your family will need to move to the United States, travel to the United States to collect your green cards. I'll put in a little phrase from Tyrone, you'll land in immigration and they'll take you to the back room, the good back room, where they will say, welcome to America, and issue your green cards and put them in your passports. At this stage, this is where the main applicant then has to start the job role. So we can complete the cycle, so we started off with a job offer and we finish off with starting the job. The rest of the family have a choice. Of course, they can continue into America. They have green cards. They are now permanent residents. The kids can go to school. The partner of the main applicant can find a job. But the main applicant has to stay and do the job. Or the family can go back home and they can just travel in and out of America as they see fit. They're now green card holders. But the main applicant has to start the job. That's the process and that's how it works. But I think it's important to now talk about the job. It's key to the whole process. So I mentioned earlier we have a partnership with a United States employer. The employer, as I mentioned, is also a distribution company and they have sites around the US. Pretty big deal in terms of the size of that company. And they have plenty of jobs. However, what we're applying for here is EB3 Unskilled. Now, we do Unskilled, and I think a lot of people ask me at this stage, why can't we do a skilled job? Why can't we be lawyers? Why can't we be doctors? The reason for that is quite a simple one. EB3 Skilled is a very, very difficult visa to get. It's quite simple. The authorities require the American company to prove why a foreign national is better for that job than an American, which is impossible. They simply can't do it. I've seen plenty of people try and fail to become lawyers or doctors on EB3, and they just can't do it. Why are you a better lawyer than this lawyer? Why are you a better banker than that banker? It's impossible. So that's why we take EB3 unskilled, because there's no such legislation, and it's easy just to get it through. And it's a means to an end, right? The job roles you'll be receiving is something basic like warehouse operative, or stock taking, or what have you, in their warehouses. And we'll come to the criteria and what how it relates to the green card. I mean, I think it's important to understand the job is not tied to the visa. If you leave that job, you still got your visa, right? You've still got your green card, but it's not tied to that green card. It's the reason you got your green card. So we need to honor the job role. So we need to go and start the job. So once we start the role, you will probably stick it out for a few months, do the job. It pays well. It pays $36,000 to $40,000, depending where you are. It's a pay-as-you-go contract, so it's a real job, and it's there designed to set you up and, to get you settled. But it's not forever. You are quite entitled as green card holders to start looking for another job or start your own business or whatever it is you want to do. You are quite entitled to do that. But we've got to play, we've got to not play the game but as much, but we've got to stay by the law, and you've got to start the job. And I think it's only fair on the employer that, we honor that contract. We've been using them to get you and your family across. So, you've got to go there with the best intention to start work. The key to it, and key to leaving the job, is being honest and transparent. If you've got a genuine reason for leaving, i.e. a new job, a better job, another job, you've started your own company, whatever that may be, and whatever legal consequences that may come from that, if the employer decides to report you for leaving the company too soon, we have a genuine legal team to back you up and say, no, he left because he's got a better job or another job, or we started a company. So we just need to be transparent with our movements. But, I think on average, most people stick the job out between 6 and 12 months, but each case is individual. So we will continue to talk to you whilst you're in the job to make sure, your evidence for leaving is good, move on. And then you can move anywhere you like in the United States. Your constitutional rights and your human rights are intact. If the employer is mean to you, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to put up with that. You are green card holders now. So technically speaking, you wouldn't have to turn up for the job. But what you would happen if you didn't turn up for that job would be the employer could open a door for the employer to make a complaint that you've committed immigration fraud because you've never shown up for work and you've used that job to get a green card. So that would cause a big problem. So definitely turn up for work, but and go there with the best intentions. But by all means, if you need to find other work, you are free to do so. That's the job. Cost structure of the visa, of this process. So the main applicant, it's $45,000, and it's $3,000 per family member on top of that. So if we take a family of 4, it would be $45,000 for the main applicant plus 3, and 3. So an extra $9,000. So it comes to $54,000 for for a family of 4. One thing I didn't mention earlier, which is the green card application. We can speed that up. A green card application, I know I talked about the work permit or the labour certificate can take 9-10 months. The green card application can also take that long. However, we do have some control over that. There is a service where if we pay a small fee of around $3,500 per family, they will speed that up to 15 days. So it's quite advisable to do that. I mean, most cases we do insist on it because we don't want these cases dragging on for 2 years. We want to get you there as quickly and as easily as we possibly can. So we do try and insist on the fact, where possible, that you definitely expedite this. So that's also on top of the 54,000. So 45 for the main applicant, 3,000 per family member, and $3,500 for expediting. But that's all the costs. There's no other costs, no hidden costs. That's everything in terms of getting cards in your family. Another question to talk about, and part of this to talk about, is our success rate. I think, rather than duck the question or try and avoid it like other companies may do, we do talk about our success rate. We're very proud of what we do and how we do it. Our success rate is in the high 90s, probably, back end of the 90s, 96 to 98%. And the reason it's that is because we've got the process down, number one. Number two, we're very careful. I mean, we're a financial services company, so we don't like risk, and that's not something we're into. So there are two parts to this, which are the immigration look at, which is the employer and you guys. We already know our employer's good. They're very experienced. They've done a lot of these cases over the years. They know their part in it, and the immigration know them. So we've got no problem with that. So that part of it's good. The other part of it that we don't know is you. So before we start, before we ask for any payment, before we ask for any signatures, the first thing we will do, and our lawyers quite insist on this, is to do a background check on you guys. So before we start, and we will accept you rather than the other way around. We're quite fussy on, we don't just hand this out to anybody. So we don't want problems halfway through the process where there's a criminal record or there's something in the immigration status that we didn't know about. We pass your copies of your passports to our lawyers. They check it out. They do a case check, and they make sure there's nothing underlying before we start. Before we get going. So we're very, very good at that. So if you're good and the employer's good, then the actual immigration process should go quite well. If I'll say at this stage again, if you've got any questions, I do see someone has raised their hand. I'd rather you put the questions in the Q&A box if you don't mind, and we'll get to the questions at the end. There is, so as I was saying, the immigration process is, that's what they do. They check the employer, they check the individual. So, that's how we actually, contain our success rate. I mean, immigration are not different to ordinary visas. People have B1, B2, F visas and H visas and all the rest of it, which is visiting. This is different. This is immigration. We're talking about getting permanent residence, which is a constitutional right. And if we tick the boxes, there's no reason why they can turn you away. In fact, they can't turn you away if you tick all the boxes. So, if we check you out, check the employer, we don't see any problems. And we're very confident about that. I think we've got to the point now where we've gone over the program. We've told you our process. We've talked about the cost. We've talked about our success rate and how it works. We've got 100 odd questions before we joined on email that was sent in by you guys before we started. So I condensed them a little bit so I can sort of bring Tyrone in here to sort of answer a few of these for us. Tyrone is based in America. He is American. In fact, he's Captain America, and he's our main man. So, you'll hear it from the horse's mouth. So, hi, Tyrone. I'm going to ask you some questions here that we've got, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, first of all, what is the EB3 eligibility?
I think you kind of, you kind of went over this early in your presentation, but one thing I like about the EB3 program, when you compare it to, America has a lot of different visa options, but there's few requirements. There is an age requirement. You must be at least 18, but there's no upper age limit. Although we do say, you should be in good enough health and, to take the job and be able to do the job. But, it's just, you have to be 18. But other than that, there's not a lot of requirements. There's no education background requirements. There's no work skill requirements. There's, in fact, there's not even English language requirement. I mean, if you don't speak any English, I would highly recommend start taking some lessons, because you're going to need to communicate in English once you get to the job. But there's not an exam that you have to take. You know, like in Canada, if you want a work visa or become a permanent resident, you have to take an international language exam and score a certain level before you can get that visa. It's not the case with the U.S., so it's quite open and flexible. I always say probably the biggest requirement is a good attitude, a willingness to go to work. But other than that, you have to have a clean criminal record. You'll get a medical checkup, but there's really not a lot of requirements. So it's suitable for anyone who really wants to move to America, have a job waiting for them, and get started with their new life.
Great. Well, I hope the people on here can speak English, or they've wasted a whole hour of their life listening to me talk. So I hope they do. The next question. Oh, sorry. Before I go on to the next question, I was meant to share my QR code. Keep the questions coming, by the way. I can see them building up in the bottom. We'll get to those after we've done the prepared ones. I'm going to share my QR code, which is basically a meeting code. So when you click on it, or you take your camera out your phone, you scan it, it will take you directly to my diary, and you can book in a meeting with me, and we can discuss your personal situation. Anything you're a bit afraid of asking now, we can ask directly to me, just me and you. So I'll just share that now before we carry on with the questions. Where do I share? Hold on a sec. There we go. Let me just share that. Hopefully you can all see that. As you can see in the bottom corner there, there's a little QR code there in the bottom right. Just scan your phone and that will take you to my diary. You can book a meeting. Next question. I'll leave that up for the time being. Next question, Tyrone. How long does it take to obtain the EB3? If they started today, what are we looking at?
I always say it's a little bit up to the client and the individual, because we have to gather some of your personal documents, things like marriage certificates, birth certificates. You'll have to get your criminal background check done, which we can assist with all those and help make sure that you've got the appropriate documents. So that usually can take a couple months. Then the labor certificate process, as you mentioned, is probably 9, 10, 11 months on average. Sometimes a little faster, sometimes a little longer. But it comes through. I'd say usually in less than a year. Then after that, we prepare the what's called I-140 petition, which is basically the green card petition, application, to put it casually. And if you do expedited processing, which we highly recommend, because the government actually will turn it around in 15 days, which is amazing. I mean, they actually put a date, like this is what we promised to do, and they do it. I mean, they actually do. If you don't do that, it could take a year, 18 months. You just don't know. I mean, it really can go on for quite some time. So, I think it's just always a very good idea to do that. At that point, then we arrange for an interview at the local consulate or embassy near you, and that time will depend on kind of the availability of visas and also your local consulate, right? I mean, sometimes some consulates are backed up for a while. So, I think you should be able to get your initial approval in less than 2 years, quite easily. And then, we'll get the consulate appointment done. And then once you get the visa at the consulate, then there's a requirement. You have 180 days to travel to America. The whole family has to go. And that is where you'll actually become a permanent resident when you land in America at immigration. So that's something to keep in mind is, you do have to travel to the U.S. and like you said, Steve, and begin working. That's the most important thing. The main applicant, and then the other family can settle around the U.S., travel back home for a little while to get affairs in order. But yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in that.
Thank you, Tyrone. And the next question we have is, well, I know I mentioned it, but I'd rather hear from you as well, and you can maybe back me up on this. I don't know. Hopefully you do. What is the success rate of this program?
If we look across the world, and not just at our company, but across the world, The EB3 program is pretty good. I mean, there's about an 85% success rate, which for visas is quite high. I mean, I would say across for all visas, that's quite good. We've been doing this for quite some time. Our partners have been doing this for a long time, and we've kind of put a system together that we have a good employer who offers legitimate jobs and can justify hiring foreign workers. As Steve, like you said, we'll vet you very much. We vet our clients to make sure they are qualified. They are sincere about going to work in the U.S. So if we tick most of those boxes, people get approved. So we're in the 90%. Occasionally there's people who choose not to follow along with the process, or something comes up that was unexpected. Criminal record, or something happens to the family along the way, which can lead to a petition being rejected. But for the most part, everyone gets approved. I mean, the process really does work, and that's why we continue to do it. We wouldn't. I wouldn't. This is my 16th, 17th year doing U.S. immigration, and if it didn't work, I wouldn't do it. I would have moved on to something else in my life. So
yeah, that's true. Great, thanks, Tyrone. Another question for you. Okay, how can Holborn guarantee qualifying employment in the United States? Good question.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's really what that first stage is for. When we apply to the U.S., or rather, the employer applies to the U.S. Department of Labor to get a labor certificate. That is really proving that this is a legitimate company that has a legitimate job. That and then you also get the labor certificate. So the U.S. Department of Labor looks at your case and says, you're a legitimate person who can go and do this job. You're qualified. You're able to do it. So, I mean, before we ever start applying for the green card, the job is proven to be legitimate, right? So it's we can show a track record now of working with the same company. We don't jump around from company to company. We work with the same company for going on 10 years, and they legitimately have jobs. They have a lot of job openings. That's why that's why they put the effort in too, because they have to put a lot of time and effort and invest money into this process as well. So it's not like it's just free labor showing up. I mean, they have to put a lot of work into it also, but they do it because they like having green card EB3 green card holders come and work for them. They tend to be better employees than a lot of Americans. They stick around, and a lot of times you can become a manager of the warehouse. You see that because as long as if you show up every day and work hard, you're going to get raises, and you're going to do very well in the company.
Thank you, mate. Okay, next one. Do all my children get citizenship as well?
Right. So
at that point, let's talk about citizenship, because
right. I was going to say
we've only talked about up to the green card point. So
right.
How does that expand to citizenship?
Let's just we'll clarify a few terms. So what you're going to actually receive is U.S. permanent residency. People often call it a green card. That's kind of the casual colloquial term. And why do they call it a green card? Because you actually get a little ID card that's green. But that means you're a permanent resident. And what permanent residency allows is for you and your family and your whole family, so that's your wife, the husband, children under the age of 21, everyone will get permanent residency. And permanent residency allows you to travel in and out of the U.S., take any job you want in the U.S. The kids can go to school public schools for free. You basically have all the same rights as a U.S. citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen, except you don't have the right to vote. But other than that, pretty much all the same things. Even when your kids get to university age, they have the right for local, what we call in-state tuition, which is substantially less than international student prices, usually like about $20,000 a year less. And they have the right to get government grants and maybe take out some student loans. So there's a lot of benefits to being a permanent resident. Now, that's different than being a citizen. A citizen is when you actually have a passport, and the EB3 green card does lead directly to citizenship if you want citizenship. You're under no obligation to take U.S. citizenship. You can keep your green card forever and enjoy all the benefits that it has. Of course, having a U.S. passport has a lot of benefits. You'll be able to travel around the world visa-free. and how you can get your U.S. citizenship and passport after 5 years of being a permanent resident. So after you land in the U.S., you become a permanent resident. A 5-year clock starts ticking. The only major requirement for citizenship then is that you have to spend at least 30 of 60 months in the U.S. So 2.5 out of 5 years in the U.S. You don't have to do that all at one time. You can do 3 months here, 3 months there. But that's the main requirement. And you can do that at any point in your life, too. I mean, maybe you're not ready to get citizenship right away. Maybe you want to wait 10 years. And the other nice thing is that each person in the family is on their own individual citizenship pathway. So, your children might be going to school in America. They will spend a full 5 years there and easily qualify for citizenship. Maybe your spouse is going to be busy operating a business, back in Nigeria or wherever you might come from. And, he won't be in the U.S. that often for a while. So, he might want to do his citizenship later on. But your permanent residency is forever. And like I said, you get all the benefits of being a citizen with just the permanent residency. So really, on day one of landing in America, you have a lot of rights and a lot of benefits.
Brilliant. On that note, Tyrone, it leads me to our next question, which is nice. Do our children get education rights and, university fees and all that? Can you talk about the education side of things?
Yeah, and I'll speak about my own personal situation. I've been in the immigration business and I've worked with people all around the world. And for about the last 20 years, I've lived overseas in several different countries, helping people immigrate to the U.S. I had a child about 4 or 5 years ago, and my wife had a child. And now that he's getting to be school age, we've decided to relocate back to the U.S. We looked at international schools, which are quite nice in different countries, but also very expensive. I mean, they're really expensive. So, we looked at what the U.S. has to offer, and that's, public school in the U.S. is still, I think, one of the greatest benefits of being in America. It's completely free. There's no fees. Books are free. And even all the activities, and American schools have so many activities, all the sports, music activities, social clubs and, movie clubs, all these, art clubs, all that's free, right? It's all included in the American education system. Whereas I think most, school systems of the world, they focus on just the education. That if you want to do sports, you have to join a sports club, pay fees. There's a lot of fees being paid. But in America, it's completely free. Now, once you get to university, you do have to pay for university in the U.S. But if you go to a local university, like we currently have, jobs in Pennsylvania. Penn State University is one of the best universities in America, and you get local tuition there. It's a fabulous university, and you'll also qualify for government grants. Student loans that international students just wouldn't apply for. So there's a lot of, although university costs money in the U.S., it costs a bit of money. There's a lot of programs to help you pay for that when you're a permanent resident or citizen.
Brilliant. Right, we finished with those prepared questions, which were from the emails. We're now going to move to the live questions, Tyrone. I'm going to open them up now. There they are. I'll go to the top one. Let's start from the beginning. This is a question from Peace. Who will employ the applicant and who searches for the job?
Right. So
Okay.
we'll just kind of repeat this because I think it is important. We already have an employer in the U.S. who is willing to hire foreign workers. So, after we vet you and do background checks on you, we introduce you to the employer. And so there is already a job there waiting. And so you don't have to go out looking for a job. We're not going to go out and look for a job for you. So I should make that clear. You might not want, working in a warehouse might not be your dream job, right? Or you might want to do something else. But these are the jobs that are available. So, and not every kind of job qualifies, right? So you have to work within a system, and we find jobs that qualify for EB3.
Right. Thanks, Tyrone. And the next few questions are all around the job, so I'll just go through them. Is the job tied to the green card? I think I did mention that, but please, if you can reaffirm.
Yeah. Now, this is something that I think is really makes the EB3 program different than really almost any program in the world. It's this is not a work visa. It's not like a temporary work visa where you get hired by a company and you come here, work for the company. And if something happens, if the company goes broke or they fire you, you lose your visa and you have to go home. That's not what this is. I think you always put it very nicely, Steve, when you say,
it's not tied to it, but it's the reason you've got it.
It's the reason you got it, right? So in order to work at these jobs, you need a green card. And, you do have to go to work at the job, right? I mean, there's no way around it.
You have to start it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go there with all the best intentions of staying. And a lot of people do stay, and they build a career there. It's a large enough company where you can really build a good career and make good money. But in no way is your green card dependent on the job necessarily. No. So if the company went broke, economic downturn, something happens, or they close down this warehouse here, you're not going to lose your green card. You're going to lose your job, but you won't lose your green card. You have to find a new job, or maybe you can get transferred or whatever. But so it's something to keep in mind. If there's really a problem at the job where, our employer is very good, and this would not happen with our employer, but say they weren't paying you adequately, they weren't paying you what what the standard wage is, you have a right to leave, right? You're not forced to stay there for your visa. So
no.
You have the freedom of movement and employment with this.
Perfect. That sort of answers the next job, which was basically, can you find another job? Yes, you can. We've already said that. Yes, you have to start this job and give it the best you can.
A lot of people, they'll take second jobs. They'll, start. Life happens, right? I mean, it's things change, and maybe your children want to go to school in a different state, and you want to relocate to a different place. So, I mean, life happens, and it's. But you do want to go with the best intentions of staying at this job.
Right. Thank you, mate. Next one. For the other dependents, I mean, I'm trying to it's quite a long part. Thanks for the informative session. This is from Flora. You referred the first applicant as a minor applicant. For the other dependents, are they able to... Oh, right, okay. So for the other people in the family, are they allowed to go and get jobs?
Yes. Yeah. So I think you might mean main applicant rather than minor applicant.
Yeah, I think it means main applicant. Yeah, the main applicant.
Has a job, is the person who's going to go to work at the EB3 group or company. Yeah, but everyone else in the family are free to seek any employment that they're qualified for, or they can apply for any job. Children can get jobs too. I mean, I think you can start working in most states in the U.S. at age 14, 15, 16. So, they can get part-time jobs at school. So everyone has the freedom as a permanent resident. Again, think of it as, almost being a citizen, right? You have all the same rights as my family has. Yeah.
Next question. Will your organization look for a better job for the green card holders?
I mean, I think these are pretty good jobs.
It's a good job. I think
we've already looked for a good job. So.
We're looking for a better one. Yeah. So will we help them?
No, because we're not an employment agency, I should say that. Right. No. So we're not, but I think once you get to the U.S. and you get settled in and you kind of learn your way around, and, things will naturally happen where, you're going to figure out what you want to do. And, but no, we're not, we don't help find different jobs. We only have certain jobs that qualify for EB3 is what I should say. And they're pretty good jobs.
Yeah. I mean, we don't run your life, right? And I think, our job is to get you there with a job and a green card for your whole family. And once you're there, you're free to do whatever you need to do. And I think, that's where we stop holding your hand. We've got you there, we've done the job, and you're on a new life in the land of dreams, as it were. Another one from Flora. How long are the working hours for the job?
Right. So these are full-time jobs, and I think being full-time is considered 32 or 34 hours in most states.
I thought it was 40 here. It's 40 in England.
Well, I mean, that's usually what everyone considered working full-time. I'm like, there's a legal qualification. I think the government sets at 32.
So Americans work less than anyone else, right?
No, but typically you will work 40 hours a week.
Right.
These jobs they're warehouse jobs. So the warehouse goes 24 hours a day. There's different shifts you can work. I mean, there's morning shifts, afternoon shifts, night shifts.
Right.
I would say, typically you're going to be working 8-hour shifts. Some people work 10-hour shifts for 4 days. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in it. But yeah, so that's
okay. So it's a standard job, right? So it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Another question from Peace. Let's ask it. Is the $45,000 plus $3,000 per family member not rather too expensive with the rate of dollars now?
Look, I mean, it is a lot of money, right? There's no way around it. It is a lot of money. What we've tried to do is, we have a payment plan where basically you pay at each milestone of success. So we break that payment, over 18 months or so. So that we try to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. But reality is that things just cost money to do this, right? There's legal fees, there's government fees. We have an admin department that has to help process applications, and so it's just. I mean, I wish we could charge less.
Yeah.
Of course. But that's just kind of the price that it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I want to add to that as well. I mean, if you look around, I mean, I know obviously Peace, the person who asked the question, if you look around, and obviously we've been in the business a long time, and you see the countries around the world and what they charge for residency or citizenship programs. Europe, for instance, you're looking at $500,000. The UK, you're looking at $300,000-$400,000. Even the Caribbean want $200,000 now, to become a resident or citizenship of their thing. So I think if we put it in perspective, this is the cheapest program in the world. So we don't make all the prices. There's lawyers to pay, as Tyrone said, and admin, and government fees. So I wish we could make it cheaper for you guys. But it is what it is, and I don't think our price is fair, and it's in line with what it is out there. But thanks for the question. Is it possible to share the recording? Absolutely. When we finish, this will be recorded. Well, it is being recorded, and our backroom staff. I'll ask them now because I think they're on here. If we could make a note to send this recording to the guys when they ask for it, so maybe the Jeeb, we can send one out to him. Thank you for that. I would like to know the total cost implications for my family of 3. That's from Teo. I can tell you straight, it's $45,000 for the main applicant, and your 2 other family members would be $3,000 each. So that's $51,000 for a family of 3, plus the $3,500 for expediting. So total cost would be $54,500, Teo. That's that question. How much do you need for getting a green card by using your business, Tyrone? I think they're referring to EB-3, maybe. I think they're talking about when you get a business green card. I don't deal with that. Tyrone might know.
The US does have programs. If you want to move to the US and make an investment and start a business, one of the major US programs is what's called EB5. EB5. It's an $800,000 investment plus about $100,000 in fees, so it's a substantial amount of money. But the thing with it is, although I think that's a very good program, it's a great program if you have the money. It gets you the same green card as the EB3 visa gets you. There's no difference, right? You're going to get all the same benefits. So I actually think the most cost-effective way to get to the U.S., and if you want to do business in the U.S., is actually to do EB3. Because if you're going to go in and start a business, you have all the risks of starting a business, and then your green card is tied to a business. So if that business failed, you could lose your green card. So I think people would be much better served. Go go work in the warehouse for a while, learn about America, so you're confident that you know how to start a business. It's a cultural experience and learn about society and how things are done here, and then start working on building that business out. You're perfectly welcome to build a business in the U.S. on your EB3 green card.
That's a really good answer. I think, I've got clients who've done exactly that. They've got businesses and they've actually, their wife or their husband. I've had a lady who had a husband and the lady had the business and her husband went to work in the warehouse and this lady set up her business. So you can always use your partner. I think it's always rule of thumb. Whoever's got the least earning potential should take this job, and the more professional, the higher earner in the family should go ahead and do what they need to do, i.e. start a business. So that's also good advice, Tyrone. What states in the USA are the jobs in? That's a good question.
So we have an employer it's a nationwide employer, but typically we rotate jobs around a little bit. We have jobs in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, Georgia, Arizona. Several different places. So I think we can, if we can help you. Out of these locations, we can't send you anywhere, right? We don't have jobs anywhere in the U.S. It's just a certain location. So we set up a meeting. We talk about the locations, and most of them are pretty nice cities where the cost of living is not too high. All those states I just named off have great education systems, so your children will be able to benefit from that. So we try to find decent locations where you can live happily, as well as having a good job.
Okay, another one from Flora. At what point is one required to make the payment?
Again, we split the payments into three stages. So the initial payment is $20,000. It's kind of a retainer fee. Your next payment wouldn't be until we're preparing your I-140, basically your green card petition, which is probably going to be in about a year or so. And
after we get the labor certificate,
right?
Yeah.
So after you get your labor certificate, then you make a payment for the green card preparation, and that's when you'd also pay for the expedited processing for the family members. And then once that gets turned around, or once we submit that, and we get an approval, I'm going to say that always takes 3-4 months. You'd make the final payment of $10,000. So the payments are 20, 15, and 10. Spread out really over about 18 to 20 months.
Yep. Does having a blank passport, i.e. a passport with no previous visas, count against your chances of getting a visa? No. No. I would say it doesn't hurt or help you. It's. I guess it's not like getting. Again, these aren't travel visas, so they're not like you see if you have a history of going and coming, or from other countries. No, I don't think it would make any difference one way or the other. Yeah. Ado. Oh, he didn't hear us properly. Please, can you tell us the cost again? Okay, it's $45,000 for the main applicant and $3,000 per family member. So for a family of 4, the cost is $54,000. 54, not 13.5. Unfortunately, I wish it was. Hope that answers that, Ado. John has a question. What are the basic requirements for the jobs? Can you give examples of jobs and the qualifications that are required?
Yeah. So again, these are what are considered unskilled jobs. So again, you don't have to have any educational requirements, work requirements. It's working in a warehouse, so you should be. I'd say you should be pretty fit, or at least in good enough condition to be on your feet most of the day, be able to lift boxes that I think the maximum they say is up to 50 pounds. But I'd say if you're worried that you couldn't lift that much, there's jobs that aren't going to require you lifting things. You do inventory with a scan gun, and there's a lot of cleaners. There's a lot of jobs just inside the warehouse. So again, there's not any real qualifications. It's considered basically anyone can do them. But I'd say the one thing is you have to be willing to do it and be in good enough condition to stay on your feet and move around, for a good portion of the day.
Okay, we've answered that one about 4 times, so I'm not going to answer that. Do we have to come up with all of the money to proceed with EB3? I'll just say that very quickly. No, we do split it into 3 payments, as Tyrone said a couple of times. I think these questions all came up earlier on, so I'm just going to answer it again. We split it into 3 payments. For a main applicant, it'd be 20, 15, 10 over a period of 13 months. So you don't need it all in one go. No. We've got quite a few questions still to get through, so I'm trying to push it. I'm realising that people have been in there quite a while now.
Right.
What happens in the case of a visa application is not successful? Good question.
Oh, in case the visas. Okay, so
if you're not successful,
sure.
In the rare occasion.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you're going to be spending a lot of money. So again, we do break up the payments into 3 payments, and each one of those is based on kind of a success milestone. So if there's a problem, basically what we do is we refund 50% of any fees you've paid Holborn rather, at any point during the process. So if your labor certificate was denied, and you paid $20,000, we'd refund half of that. We'd refund $10,000. At a later time, at any point, we refund 50% of anything that's been paid. And this is the easiest way to put it.
Perfect. What are the benefits per hour on the monthly jobs? Yeah, I mean, just the pay again. If you can just go over the pay again, please.
It's around $20 an hour. Some places a little higher, some places a little lower. It tends to go up pretty quickly if you show up at work every day. You also get health benefits, health insurance for the family, which is huge in America. It's very valuable to get those. So yeah, that's about it. There's overtime. If somebody wants to work extra hours, where overtime is usually you get what they call time and a half. So you get if you're making $20 an hour, you get $30 an hour for working overtime. That's anything over 40 hours. So yeah, that's what the job pays.
Thanks, Tyrone. Next one. If you've already got a visitor's visa, is there any benefits, or also does it clash with this particular application?
No, not particularly. It's I mean, I guess it's kind of nice if you can say that you visited the U.S. so you know what you're getting into, right? When you're at the consulate, you say, "Hey, I've been to the U.S. I love it." But the visa itself is not going to help or hinder your immigration petition. We've had people who said, "Oh, I was denied a travel visa, a business visa to the U.S. Can I still do this?" The answer is yes. I mean, we have a lot of clients. I know a lot of people have been denied business visas and travel visas, not because they're bad people or anything. Just sometimes consulates just deny you visas, that for whatever reason. But this is an immigration petition. It goes down a whole different track in the citizenship, the U.S. CIS, U.S. Citizenship and Services, track. So, your visitor visa isn't really going to have an impact on that, unless you did something horrible on your, while you're in America, you committed crimes or something like that. But no, having or not having a business visa shouldn't really have an effect on the petition.
How long has Holborn Pass been in operation? I've never heard of it. How come in Africa? Question, right?
But Holborn Assets has been in business since 1990?
96.
96, right.
Yeah.
So more than 25, 26 years. Holborn Pass is a division of Holborn Assets.
28.
We started this division about 4 years ago. I helped found the division with another gentleman in Dubai. I mean, Africa is kind of a new territory for Holborn Assets. Although I shouldn't say that. South Africa, Holborn Assets has 4 offices in South Africa.
3, I believe.
3. Okay, 3. And I think we're setting up an office in Nigeria. In the near future, and
correct.
27 offices around the world. So yeah, it is a new area for us. But myself, I've been in the immigration business for 16 years, 17 years now. So I've been doing EB3 for more than 10 years. So, our partners have been doing it for more than 10 years. We have quite a lot of experience in general in this program.
Thanks, mate. I think it's also important to say we're not choosing Africa. Africa are choosing us right now. I think we're getting more and more inquiries from Africa than anywhere else at the moment. So that's just to answer your questions. We're online, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. Our marketing department do a very good job in putting us out there, but we are getting more and more. There's more inquiries from Africa than anywhere else. So in fact, it's Africa choosing us rather than us choosing Africa. And we've answered that. We don't need to apply for a job. We give you one. Okay. How would I be able? Oh, this is a very personal question. I think we should answer this one in a one-to-one meeting. We've got a message here from Olawale. It's about her marriage is the marriage is in trouble. I want to bring my wife and daughter later after securing my green card because the marriage is in a bit of trouble. Look, I think Olawale, it'd be better if you booked a meeting with me directly. You don't want to be putting your personal situation in a big public forum. So please book a meeting, scan the code, and I'll discuss that with you. What is the cost implications? Oh, we've already gone through that. What do I have to pay for you? EB2 and EB3. What's the difference in cost between E2 and E3? EB3, Tyrone, do we know?
E2 is a business investment visa. Typically, that's where you'd invest money into a company and you'd go to the U.S. and operate a company. It's a little more complicated than that, but essentially that's what it is. And typically, they want to see probably $250,000 to $400,000 investment, and you have to hire employees in the U.S. and you have to move here and manage that. And the E2 visa never becomes a permanent green card. It doesn't. It's not a green card. It's just a business visa. So, although you have the right to bring your family to the U.S. and your kids to go to school, it doesn't become a permanent residency. It does not turn into citizenship. So, it's a good program for people who really are driven to start a business in the U.S. But I don't think it's a great immigration program because you can come here, operate a very successful business for 20 years, and hire lots of people. And when your children turn 21, they can no longer be on the visa; they have to go home. If you close down the business, you have to go home. So it's not a great visa. I don't think it's a good visa, but it's not what I like. I want to see everyone get permanent residency if they want citizenship and for their children to be able to live forever in America. Yeah, that's why I really like EB3.
I've got one here. I can answer this quite quick. I'm a skilled worker, an accountant by profession. Do I stand a chance to be employed under your program? Absolutely. As we said, we get many skilled workers apply for EB3 because they simply have no other choice to get into the United States because you can't really use your accountant profession to do the skilled version because you'll never.
You have to be licensed. You
have to be licensed there as well.
Now, that's not to say that sometime in the future, I'll just give a quick anecdote from my experience in Vietnam. We had a Vietnamese lady who was a CFO. She was a high-level accountant at a big company in Vietnam. She decided to do EB3. She wanted her kids to go to school in America. So, she did a good job cleaning in the warehouse. And she was talking to her boss one day at the warehouse. And, she told him, oh, yeah, I was an accountant in Vietnam and very successful. And he goes, really? Well, why are you doing this? He goes, do you think you can help us in the office? We need help in the accounting department. So as it turned out, she was able to kind of learn the software and how their accounting system there, and she ended up being an accountant, a company inside a company. So again, you want to see this as your first job in America, but there's a lot of opportunities in America to live out your dream.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyrone. What about accommodation when you get to the US? Who takes care of securing that?
We do. The company does not provide accommodation. We do assist with relocation so that once you're in the US, we have a good network of current and former EB3 workers who, they're usually the best source, right? Because they tell you, hey, this is where you want to live. The rent's decent here. It's close to the school. It's close to the job. It's a nice neighborhood. So, we do assist with the relocation process, and we introduce you to some of the current EB3 workers. They can they're always the best source of advice, about where to live. But no, it is up to you to, and this is something I should remind everyone. You will need some money to relocate on, right? It's you're going to have to save up a little bit of money to actually move to the U.S. We'll try to make it as easy as possible and as efficient as possible for you to find housing and get driver's licenses, but it's still up to you financially to do that.
Yeah. John's asked another question. John's very lively with his questions. He's got quite a lot, which is nice. I mean, if you really want to have lots of questions, please book a meeting. I'm happy to do that, but we'll still try and get through them. I think it's important to know of the initial job can help me give basic care for my family once I've used all my money paying for this. Absolutely. I mean, as we said, the job pays $20 an hour, which equates to $36,000 to $40,000 a year, right?
Well, and you can think of it this way: the average household income, not individual income, in the U.S. I think is about $72,000. So if you take the job and your wife took the same job, right? I mean, your wife can go to work at. They'd love it if your wife comes to work at the warehouse and get two great workers for the price of one. Look, you're going to be right at the average household income in the U.S. Which, now I'm going to say that doesn't make you rich. You won't be buying Mercedes or anything, but it supplies of life. You get health care, and it's nice when you land. You have a job. I mean, they're ready for you to go to work the day after you arrive if you want. So, so you'll start having income right away. I mean, I do think it's important to have a little bit of money saved up, as a cushion when you initially move. There will be expenses, but you'll have income right away, and we can arrange for your wife to have a job too. I mean, you can both start on the same day at the warehouse if you want.
Excellent.
Absolutely, we can do that. So
brilliant. Here's a good one. What happens if you are deemed not competent for that job? Is there a possibility of you losing your job before you find another one? And what's the recourse if that happens? I mean, basically, what happens if you get fired?
Yeah. Well, try not to get fired, right?
It can happen, right?
I don't think you'll get fired. You're good. You'll be good workers. But no. So this is first of all, we do have you make a video. You do an introduction to yourself, and the employer chooses you, right? So they decide if they feel like you're qualified. So if you're not, first of all, you're not going to pay anything, right? But typically, when the employer says, yes, I think that this person is qualified, then the Department of Labor decides if you're qualified. And then once you get to the job, it's okay. So maybe you just the job's not working out, and you do lose your job. That does not necessarily affect your green card, because you do have permanent residency at that point, and it would be very unfortunate if that happened. It would be up to you to find a new job, but it's not necessarily going to have any recourse. If you got there and you got hurt on the job, I mean, things happen, or you got hurt and you're unable to work for a while. That's not going to affect your green card, but we just want to make sure that you are going to the U.S. and you do put in all best efforts. But on the other hand, sometimes all best efforts don't turn out the way we want them to.
Brilliant. It's a quick one. Are all the family members get the green cards, right? Yes, you do. It's the two main family members, as in the husband and the wife, and any children under 21. You all get green cards for one application. Definitely. Is there a payment plan? Yes, we've already asked that. Yes, it's in three payments over an 18-month period. But we can go into that when you book a meeting with me, and we can do that directly. I'm trying to get as much information out there as possible. I've got somebody who's asked the same question twice, so it's obviously important to them. Can me and my co-founders get residency if we have our business registered in Delaware?
I've
obviously got a business space there.
I mean, that's not really what the EB3 program is about.
No.
I mean, it's this is an employment-based visa where you go to work for a company in the U.S.
Yeah.
There are pathways in the U.S. Where you start a company and you make a fairly substantial investment and you can move to the U.S. So it's not exactly. I mean, what I'd say is you can come to the U.S. and working at an EB3 job and start your business. I mean, if you and your partners all want to go work in a warehouse and then start your business and start operating your business, that's perfectly fine.
Perfect. How much does it cost for a single applicant? $45,000, and the payment is 20/15/10 over an 18-month period. There we go. That's not one. Please let me know what to do after this seminar. What if you have been denied a US visa before? Does it reduce your chances if you've been denied a visa, Tyrone?
I'd say let's do an individual call to discuss what the situation was. Typically, I'd say no. It doesn't, unless there was a real significant reason why you're denied. But lots of people are denied travel student visas, and it's not. That's not necessarily the problem.
If it's connected to criminality, we might have a problem. But I think it's best to book a meeting directly, do a one-to-one with me or Tyrone.
Yeah, just talk through your situation.
And let's talk it through your situation. It depends on your situation, of course. Can you choose what state you work in?
Well, we offer jobs in certain locations, and that's just all we have to offer. So, but I would say this: say we have a job in Pennsylvania, but your family really wants to live in California, or you have family in California. That's where you want to settle. Your family can settle in California. You will have to work at this location, but you can travel back and forth. Maybe you go visit them every couple of months or on holidays, and while you're getting established with your life. So again, we have we have a limited set of opportunities, right? We don't offer any job in America. We have a limited set, but we've tried to choose pretty good locations with a good employer.
Okay. I've got a suspicion that some people have joined a little bit late because I'm asking questions here which I think I've been covered, but this is quite an interesting question. In Africa, we usually have house assistants. Can they come along too? No, is the answer. I think they need it's family. It's husband, wife, children. End of. No parents, no siblings, no housemates, I'm afraid. Will I have to come with my children immediately if my visa is approved? Or can I come first and bring them later? Good one. Good question.
No, I think to make things best, you should all travel to the U.S. within 100. Well, you all must travel to the U.S. within 180 days, within 6 months, because that's how long the visa that the U.S. consular embassy will issue. So it's good for 180 days. All of you must travel to the U.S.
to collect the green card.
Follow up on, I see another question here. How long do you have to spend in the U.S.? Well, the main applicant's going to go to work, so he'll be full-time in the U.S. The family members, say, the wife and children, maybe it's the middle of a school year and they want to go back and finish the school year at home. They can go back. You, as a green card holder, you can travel in and out of the U.S. freely. The other nice thing about being a green card holder is there's not a certain set number of days that you have to spend in America to maintain your green card. I mean, you do have to establish residency. Typically, people say, don't stay out of the U.S. Longer than 6 months at a time. If you're going to do that, you should probably notify the U.S. Immigration Services and let them know that, maybe you have a child who's going to study in the home country for a couple of years, right? You won't be able to come out as often. Just let them know. But there's no hard stay requirements. It's not like you have to spend 6 months out of a year there to maintain your green card. There's nothing quite like that. So there's a lot of flexibility.
I've got a question here from but someone's asked this twice. I think they might have missed it. How long does it take to get the green card? It takes around, as Tyrone mentioned, 18 to 20 months from start to that point. Is that right, Tyrone?
Yeah, to get the initial approval
to get the green card
to the consulate, right?
Yeah, they must have missed that. And this question's been asked twice as well. How long must my partner stay in the US before going back home if they choose to?
There's no set requirement. You can kind of they can pretty much turn around, go back home after they land. They do have to come and get the green card. I would stick around because what they'll do at the U.S. immigration when you're entering America, as Steve said, they take you to the good back room, and you have to fill out a form with an address on it where they will actually mail your physical green cards. So I would highly recommend everyone just stick around for a couple of weeks until those green cards come in, so that the family has it. It would be a nice opportunity for the family to see where you're moving, but officially, I mean, I think you can pretty much turn back around and leave if you like. Again, you don't. You want to visit the U.S. probably a couple times a year, but there's no hard or set limit that you have to stay.
Yeah. A question from Peace: when can I get started, and what documents are required of me? Peace, I think the best thing to do here is get your phone, scan that QR code there, and meet me individually, and I will talk you through the process to get started. If that's not possible and I don't see you come through, I'll ask one of our admin guys to give you a call and get you started. What's the cost for a mother and one child? It's $45,000 for the main applicant and $3,000 for the child, so $48,000 plus the expediting fee of $3,500, so $51,500. That's what it would cost for a family of, mother and child. The last question from someone in South America. I have an LLC running, but I am not a US citizen. Is there any difference to plan to get a green card?
No, again, America's a very open economy where, foreign nationals can open U.S. companies and operate them. That doesn't necessarily lead to a green card. There's some opportunities for that, but for the most part, no. You can just have a business visa to travel in and operate your company. But again, with this particular program, this is an employment program where you go and work for an employer in the U.S. But if you want to do business investment, again, it's usually a fairly substantial amount of money. We can discuss that. I guess if you want to get on another call, we can discuss some investment visas. Okay.
And last question. Sorry, we had another one. Is there any discounts? I'm afraid not, Kate. We'll have to end on that one. I wish I could, but the costs are the costs, I'm afraid. I wish we could help, but unfortunately not. That's all the questions answered, Tyrone.
All right. Well, that was pretty lively.
It was pretty lively. That was a busy one, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So we come to the end, guys. Thank you so much for joining me and Tyrone today. I will keep saying it one last time. Scan the code, book a meeting, and we could go into more and more questions and more time with you individually in your situation. Thank you so much for all your questions and everything you've put into this meeting. It's been a bit longer than we expected, but really appreciate it, guys.
Good. All right.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you guys in an individual meeting.
That's cool. See you guys.